This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
Hello, everyone. Super excited today. Got an amazing podcast. I have, it's right up my alley. Everybody knows that I love science, and I have someone on here that invented something that is going to revolutionize the world, or is. It's with Aqua Research LLC, and they're here in New Mexico, which is exciting. And their mission, I love their mission, is to offer affordable and sustainable life-saving water technology to developing nations where the median income is less than $2 a day, to support disaster relief and humanitarian aid and offer the same technology to the outdoor community. Well, I have the founder, the inventor, and also the chief executive officer, Rodney Herrington. He was the founder and former chief technical officer at MIOX Corporation, as well as the inventor of the MSR MIOX Purifier, a first-generation water purifier. And this is kind of cool, and we'll talk about this, Rodney, here in a second. You were the Grand Award winner for Popular Science Best of What's New Award. And then you invented the H2gO Purifier, and in the process have saved thousands of lives to date in both developing and developed countries. So, Rodney, thanks for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. And kind of, if you don't mind, kind of what caused you to decide to go into this direction on the humanitarian side in saving people's lives through water?
Okay. Well, thank you, Jason. Glad to be talking to you today. You can hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was one of the founders. When you say MIOX, it's mixed. It's MIOX, MIOX. And that was about 25 years ago. And we developed that out of a grad student's research work on electrolytics, which is nothing more than stripping electrons off of chloride and salt and making chlorine, which is the way chlorine's been made for 150 years. But we made it more portable and safer for municipalities to use at MIOX. But while we were at MIOX, DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, heard about us and wanted to know if we could develop a system that could treat any water anywhere to EPA drinking water. So it was nice. We had a nice contract with DARPA over 5 years. And out of that came the original handheld little purifier that just used salt, but at the time it used lithium camera batteries, which were rather expensive. But it sold well in the outdoor market and to the military. And in 2010, I decided to leave MIOX Corporation and start my own company. Aqua Research is one of them. I actually have two companies. The other is Aqua Membranes. But Aqua Research was the idea there was to develop and enhance the original MSR MIOX purifier to make a device that people in developing countries could use effectively. And the technology had evolved with cell phones and everything, and solar panels got cheap, rechargeable cell phone batteries got cheap. And I realized that we could use those technologies in this original device and enhance it dramatically so that somebody in a developing country, all they need is salt to make their water safe. So it does nothing more than use common salt to make a disinfectant that you then put into water you collected from a lake, river, stream, something like that. So it's got a solar panel on it. It's for charging up the rechargeable battery. It's got a cell phone battery in it. And it'll treat about 75 gallons on one charge. And you can recharge it 500 times. So ideally, as an example, a family in a developing country can make 10 gallons of water safe by adding this disinfectant to the water they found, and then recharge it once a week. That's 75 gallons, 10 gallons a day. And then 50 weeks a year, you recharge it 500 times. They have 10 years of safe water. And the price of salt to do 10 gallons a day of safe water is 50 cents a year. So it's a Morton's container of salt to run that thing for a year. And that's all they need. They can use solar power to charge it, or they can use a USB charger if they've got a cell phone. But in any event, so when all those concepts came together, it was pretty clear that we had something that people in developing countries needed. It was sustainable in the sense that they didn't have to keep buying something. They didn't have to keep buying filters. They didn't have to keep going to the store and buying bleach. And a lot of studies have shown that people who have to go back and continue buying something, they'll drop it. They won't continue doing it. But this device, all they do is get it in their hands, and then it's just salt. And salt's ubiquitous. Everybody's got salt. You can ask anybody anywhere, no matter how poor the country is, and they'll have salt. So anyway, it was a concept. We developed it, commercialized it. It's been in the outdoor retail stores. But we've been primarily working with non-government organizations, and government institutions to try to get this technology out there. And like anything, you can have the greatest thing since sliced bread, but if the world doesn't know about it, it's not.
Right.
So anyway, we're trying to get the word out. We're working with a number of organizations and making progress, not as fast as I'd like, but we're getting there. And now we have other products, larger products that we're developing for communities, USAID, and non-government organizations like Catholic Relief Services and a number of others are beginning to use this commercial technology. The larger scale stuff you could take to a site in a briefcase and run on solar panels or out, in regular power. So anyway, that's what we do. We make these devices that make water safe.
That's crazy because when you think about it, I mean, it just blows my mind to think that you just take a little bit. So it's just a little bit of salt, and it because it almost looks like on your website. And I encourage everybody to go to it. It's Aqua Research LLC.com. That's Aqua Research LLC.com. And like I said, you guys are here in New Mexico, which is awesome. But it looks like just a small little handheld device. Like it's almost looks smaller than you would think it would be bigger than, like it would be a bit, but this thing looks like it could fit in the palm of your hand.
Oh yeah. It's 4 ounces, smaller than a cell phone. Excuse me. And we've driven cars over it, done all the military tests on it because we originally designed it for the military.
But yeah, I mean, so 50 cents of salt that cost what that would cost yearly does 10 gallons of water per day with only one battery charge per week.
That's correct.
That just seems like because on your website you have statistics on here. You have like 3.3 million people die each year from water related health problems. And you think about that, and it's like we're all freaking out with all the deaths from COVID and everything that's going on. But every year, 3.3 million people are dying. What are some of the
waterborne disease? Excuse me, waterborne disease is far bigger problem than COVID. I mean, COVID is containable in the sense that people can sequester themselves, wear a mask, and do those things, which are smart to do. But in a developing country where there's just people are scrounging for the water, trying to find any source of water, they're drinking it. They don't have the technology to make it safe. And this technology can do that very cheaply.
And one of the things that you have on the website, and I thought this was really interesting, is because we're all learning this, with COVID, I think everybody's learning all this. You said half the hospital beds in the poorest countries are filled with patients with water-related diseases.
That's correct. Yeah, it's half in developing countries, half the people in hospitals are with waterborne disease. I mean, they're being treated for diarrheal problems, things like that. Haiti, for instance, in 2010 had the big earthquake. After the earthquake, 10,000 Haitians died from cholera in the drinking water. And so it's a huge problem, and it's so cheap to solve, Right. Now, people say, okay, your device costs money. Yes, it does. We retail it for $99 on our website. But we sell direct to NGOs because we don't have the distribution markup. So we sell to NGOs for about half, non-government organizations and the government. It's anybody that, buys them in bulk like that. So anyway, and then we have other techniques for trying to get it out there. We have NGOs that work with us to buy the devices, raise money to buy the devices, and we'll ship them to wherever they want. So we're setting up distributors in lots of different countries, from Haiti to Africa, you name it, and trying to come up with, microfinance schemes, getting the, entrepreneurs in those countries excited about making money with it, and helping their.
Oh, right.
So there's a lot of techniques, but it takes time to get it all set up and work with those organizations, and, so it's a pretty big challenge on the marketing side. There is truth to the fact that building the technology is only half the battle. The other half is selling it and getting it out there. So.
Yeah, and you would think with something this revolutionary that doesn't cost that much and is this like perfect size and everything, that you would have all these not-for-profit organizations come in and say, we know that this is causing so many issues. Let's get this into the hands of people. What are you seeing being the biggest hurdle?
Well, I mean, there are some NGOs that are, really taking this to heart and buying these things and getting them out there. There's no question about it. Operation Blessing International, which is a disaster relief organization started by Pat Robertson and the 700 Club. They have bought a number of these things and distributed them worldwide, from Nepal to Puerto Rico to you name it. But I'd say the biggest problem in working with NGOs, most of them are out there raising money to keep their operations going, to keep people going into developing countries, to pay for all the travel and expenses and so forth. So injecting another expense on them, is a little bit problematic sometimes. But there are NGOs that are very excited about this technology. And, we have a couple of them that were set up specifically for promoting this technology. Make Water Safe for the World is an organization out of Vermont that was set up specifically to raise funds for and buy our purifiers. And basically, they raise a donation of $100. They send us $50. We ship them a purifier, and then they can give it away to anybody in developing country. So that's one strategy. Another one is another organization that Prior Suppliers out of New York. They operate in Haiti, and they get donations for them, and they ship them to Haiti, and there's entrepreneurs in Haiti that get them for free. Then they charge their neighbors $5 or $10 for the devices instead of $50 or $100, and they keep that money, and that's their incentive to. So, but it's still, there's a limited number of donor dollars out there in the United States. There's a lot, don't get me wrong, but getting them in a microfinance scheme in a developing country is the ultimate big way to go, because you're creating entrepreneurs at the local level who see an opportunity to make money with it. So that scheme works as well.
Yeah, and I never thought that, but that would probably be the best way to distribute those, because you have, like you said, you have an entrepreneur that's incentivized to get them out into the community. Right. How many have you guys ever done like studies, or have you seen, like if there's, or is it like 1 per 5 families and they're each getting, a gallon a day or something from it? Have you seen, how is that working? I know it depends on how rural the village is or whatever, but are you seeing like just getting a couple devices into a small village can help change that dramatically?
It can. They use it. Several families use it, pass it around. Or there's somebody who makes the water safe and gives it to them or sells it to them cheaply. there's about, there's not quite 1 billion people on the planet without access to safe water, but there's a lot. And there's probably that many ways it's used. Now we're certainly don't have these things distributed to that level yet, but we hear all different types of applications. We help build rainwater collection systems in Haiti, for instance, on these poor houses. And we give them a purifier to disinfect the rainwater runoff. And so that's just another, and it's a family typically, or a group of people. A lot of different ways of doing it. And typically the mothers in the family who understand the health effects for their children are the ones that are really interested in the technology. You give them one or demonstrate it, to them, they won't give it back. No, you're not taking this,
Right, of course.
Right. So, and it's been easy, for instance, to sell the technology in Haiti a little bit because of the cholera problem. I mean, they know cholera is in the water, or was in the water. It was there in a larger degree earlier. They've gotten it under control to some degree, but they know not to drink the water without, treating it. So, and it's different than, it's disinfection. It's chlorine. In 1908 in the United States, we started chlorinating water in Boonton, New Jersey. It's not a well-known fact today, but infant mortality rate in the United States in 1900 was bad. It was typhoid and cholera. And we started chlorinating water in Boonton, New Jersey in 1908. By 1940, we had eliminated typhoid and cholera in the United States. People don't today drinking water out of their tap. There is no way they're going to get typhoid or cholera. There's not even a concern in the United States about it anymore because it's required in all of our drinking water. And so in developing countries, though, it's not. I mean, the infrastructure is not in place to build the water systems, the distribution pipeline, much less do the chlorine. And it is a whole lot cheaper to chlorinate water than to treat people for waterborne diseases. So it's a real interesting problem.
Yeah, I know on your website you said it's health agencies. It's $14 billion per year. That is crazy. That's how much it costs just health agencies alone. Not talking about the sanitation and everything else that goes along with it, and building the infrastructure. And one of the things that you talk about, which I really like, a lot of people don't think of this, and you have this, and I know you got these statistics from the WHO, and you have the listing cited here, National Geographic, The Economist. One of the things you say is that they're missing 640 million more productive working days per year because they're sick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's loss of productivity is tremendous. And, it's not just sickness, but it's also the time that women typically, and children take to go collect the water. They may be walking 3 hours to some location to get the water and 3 hours back. We don't solve that problem, but we do make the water they find safe. And so, there's a lot of organizations out there that are drilling wells to make water safe. Water.org, for instance, Charity Water, is out of New York. And, they claim to have provided water now for 3 million people, through their network of well drilling and doing this in remote areas. But 3 million people is not a lot of people when you're looking at 1 billion that don't have it. So it takes a lot of resources, a lot of organizations doing it, to try to solve this problem and to put more emphasis on, improving the health of these people in developing countries to allow them to spend more productive time and getting educated, So anyway, it's a big problem.
Yeah, you said 544 million school attendance days are missed, and 3 billion more healthy days for children under 5. So,
Yes.
I mean, that's just one quick question. I know you're a water expert, so I kind of wanted to get into this. All this bottled water we drink and all this stuff, is it different than tap water? There's always this huge debate with that.
Well, bottle, as we like to say, okay, bottled water is a marketing success and an environmental disaster.
Yes.
I mean, the plastic that we create, I mean, it's worldwide. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in the oceans. It's just crazy. And bottled water is typically city water. It's not all spring water, It's city water that has gone through reverse osmosis filtration to take everything out and make it nice and clean. And then they bottle it and sell it, like Coca-Cola, Desante, all the other out there, Nestle. So it's really nothing more than RO water. Now, they add a little ozone to it before they cap the bottle, and the ozone kills any potential bugs that may be in that water. So bottled water is definitely safe, but you're also trusting the manufacturer of that bottled water. There is no EPA regulation on bottled water. There's
I didn't know that.
From the EPA that water be safe. There's, not like drinking water out of your tap. Your tap water is EPA regulated drinking water. Bottled water is not. And statistically speaking, they're both about the same level of safety. So you better trust the company that's making the bottled water, because they're just relying on their good name, to keep the reputation and continue selling you water.
Is it true if it's hot outside or something like that, and these cases of water in the plastic are in store, does it leak through? Does the plastic leak through or not? Or do you know anything about that?
No, they've got the plastic now, so it leaches extremely low levels. It's not hazardous in that sense. Not long term. Let me just say another thing about chlorination, which is kind of related to plastic leaching out, or plasticizer leaching into the bottled water. And that is that we were chlorinating the water without any consideration for disinfection byproducts from 1908 until the mid 70s. We didn't have the detection capability to look for disinfection byproducts. These are chlorinated byproducts that react with organics in raw water to create these disinfection byproducts, and they're trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids, things like that. And the EPA started doing epidemiological studies on it to look at these disinfection byproducts and the effect on humans. And all right, high levels of disinfection byproducts may shorten your life by 2 or 3 weeks, but not chlorinating your water will shorten your lifespan a whole lot more, years. So average lifespan in the United States in 1900 was 47 years old. That's all. By 1940, with chlorination and treatment of drinking water, it was 63 years, 16-year increase, primarily off of drinking water. Chlorination is one of the leading health contributors to health in the world. I mean, there's been penicillin, lots of different things that have come along to help. But chlorination of drinking water is one of the greatest health interventions in history. And it needs to be spread around the world. Right. So
now, question: Have you guys has any bottled water company or anybody said, if we sell this much water, then we'll turn around and we'll support your organization? Have you guys had anything like that?
No, we haven't. We haven't looked at that option either. It would be nice to maybe talk to Desante or Nestle or somebody like that, but they're not going to put chlorine in their bottled water. Now, I will say the only place I've heard of people putting chlorine in their bottled water is in Haiti, interestingly. And these companies that have grown up down there selling the 5-gallon jug, the Culligan bottle type stuff. And they chlorinate the water to make, and chlorine maintains a chlorine residual in the water. It keeps that water safe, even in storage. So, and it kills everything. It kills virus, bacteria, it kills protozoa like Giardia, where filters don't always take out the virus. Most of the filters out there don't take out virus. So hepatitis and things like that, continue to propagate even with, quote, filtered water. So anyway, you can tell them chlorine for fun.
Yeah, and I've seen all these machines that they have where they're taking salt from the ocean and salt water and all this stuff. This is to me, obviously, you saying 50 cents per year plus the cost of the device to do this many gallons. This seems to be the cheapest and the best way to make clean water.
It is from the standpoint of surface water. We're talking about raw water sources that don't have salt in it. Now, from a scarcity standpoint, desalination, reverse osmosis membrane technology, is a good way to make fresh water from seawater. The largest desalination plant in the United States is in San Diego, the Carlsbad Desalination Plant. And it's a $1 billion plant that makes 8% of the water for the city of San Diego. But it's all seawater. It's seawater that has been stripped of all the ions, the salt in it, to make it drinking water. You can't drink seawater. It's just too salty. So places where along the coast where freshwater sources may not exist, desalination is a good solution. And it's getting much more popular worldwide, lots of different places. And membrane technology is also being used in freshwater plants in cities because there is no more pristine water. It's all been recycled and used and discharged back in the rivers. And, it's not the next city downstream is picking up that water and, they're running it through different processes. In a lot of cases, it's membrane technology to strip all the ions and things out of the water to get it clean again so you can drink it. So, but from a freshwater standpoint, going down to a river, Rio Grande down here, you can take water out of the Rio Grande River, treat it with our chlorine from our little devices, and it will be safe to drink. Now, it's not something you want to consume on a regular basis because of the disinfection byproducts associated with it on long-term use. But if it's reasonably clean water in a river or stream or a lake or whatever, our device will keep that water safe. And in a developing country, it's a whole lot better to use our device than, not use it. So you want to kill the bugs in the water. It doesn't take the dirt out. You can eat the dirt. You just don't want to eat the bugs. The bugs are what will kill you.
Right. And a lot of that comes from, because I was reading an article the other day and they were talking about, they were drilling all these different wells and they had these not-for-profits coming in and drilling wells. And then some of the wells were contaminated. Well,
they are. You have to check it. You have to, after they drill a well and bring it in, they need to check and make sure that it's, it's good. I mean, with a world case in point of wells, thousands of wells were drilled in Bangladesh, 30, 40 years ago to provide drinking water for people. But nobody checked it. And it had huge levels of arsenic. And over a year period, thousands and thousands of people got arsenic poisoning. And so after they finally realized what was causing the problem, they went in and huge programs to cap all those wells or to put in treatment processes to remove the arsenic. So you better check it after you drill it and bring it up. You better make sure it's still, safe to drink. And again, our technology, fairly, would not remove arsenic. We add disinfectant to kill the bugs, but we cannot remove the ions like arsenic or iron or other things that are in the water. So in an arsenic situation like occurred in Bangladesh, you have to do other technologies to get the arsenic out before you can drink it safely. But again, I say after you've filtered it and got it safe, then you need to put chlorine in it to make sure it stays safe.
Yeah, and not only do you have the little device, but I see you also have you call it stream system, and that does 60,000 gallons per day.
Yeah, it's a briefcase type thing in a plastic Pelican case, made to be pretty durable and designed for abuse rather than use. But it has an electrolytic cell that's a flow through type cell. You just feed salt water. So we don't ship the buckets with it, but you grab 2 5-gallon buckets or 1 gallon, whatever you've got in terms of buckets locally. And you fill one with water and you put salt in it. And we have a little chart on the lid that tells you how much salt to add for the volume of water. And then you put the little suction hose in it, turn the system on, and it'll pull water through the cell, electrolyze it, and put it in a second bucket that has the chlorine. And that device makes chlorine on a continuous basis. And it'll make enough chlorine to treat 60,000 gallons a day of drinking water.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
That's a lot. But it's used for sanitation. We're selling a lot of those right now in lots of different places worldwide for surface sanitation in hospitals. Caris Foundation in Haiti, for instance, has bought a bunch of them and put them down there to treat 168 healthcare facilities in Haiti. Now, that was under a USAID-funded contract that Caris has. But we've just sold and shipped a bunch to Africa and Ghana and Mozambique and Madagascar and, Burkina Faso and other countries over there. And so that's typically USAID-funded projects or NGO-funded projects like Catholic Relief Services, organizations like that. So anyway, Tamale Teaching Hospital in Ghana, for instance, just bought 10 of them. Our distributor there had a stream, and he took it over to the hospital and showed it to them. They said, "Oh, this is neat. Can we use it for a little while?" So he said, "Yeah, okay." So they kept it a month, and we're running it 22 to 23 hours a day, continuous, making chlorine. Did that for a month every day. At the end of the month, they didn't have the budget scheduled yet to buy these units they wanted. So they said, "Can we borrow it again?" So we couldn't take it away from them, We let them use it, but they finally placed an order for 10 units. And so it's, we're shipping 10 units over to them to use in a lot of different locations over there.
Yeah. And you have it's just not for hospitals, but like orphanages, schools.
Yeah, we've got them in orphanages. For instance, in Haiti, we've got a town in Carfu, which is west of Port-au-Prince, and it's an orphanage up there that has 40 orphans, and about 10 of the orphans are, have very difficult problems. And they use that stream system not only to treat the rainwater runoff in that orphanage, it's a roof. They just collect water off the roof, goes to a cistern under the building. They disinfect it. But the nuns there are now bottling it in, plastic bottles, drinking water bottles, labeling it and handing it to all their neighbors and say, "Put this in your water, before you drink it." So there's a school on the other side of town that's got 750 kids, and that whole community is a whole compound with the school and all the other infrastructure is being treated with the stream system. And then they have, at that big compound over there, it's a Franciscan compound, they have 4 watering stations on the 4 corners, and they're delivering chlorinated water out to villagers who come out and pay 1 or 2 cents to fill up a 5-gallon jug they bring to the site to fill up their water. So that's just an example. I mean, there's a lot of different places these things are being used in different ways. We don't know them all. I'm pretty convinced we're saving lives, but I can't tell you the names of the people, that were
course, right. Yeah, I mean, you're saving thousands of lives by giving them clean water. I mean, that what I thought about this was cool is that you've even on the small device and also in the stream system, you have it like where it can use solar, and like on the big device, you have it where it can use a car battery or
Right.
one R220. I thought that was very creative in saying whatever your energy source is here, we want to make sure that it can be used that way.
That's correct. So it has a inverter or power supply in it that converts 110 or 220. You just plug it into whichever source, and it determines what the power source is, and delivers 12 volts to the system. And if you don't have line power available and you've got a car battery or a solar panel array, you just plug it directly in. So we wanted it to be flexible for just about any application anywhere. And so we designed it, and those are not optional things we put on it. They're part of the package, So every system out there you can operate on any power source. We don't sell options. We just include everything you need in the package to make sure that you can get, safe water.
And now, do you guys have because I know you have it where you can buy one of these machines, or you can make a donation on your website. Now, if somebody wanted to make a donation, how does that work through your website?
Well, you can make donations directly. We have a donor button on our website. But we also have a Safe Water Fund, it's called, and that's administered by the National Christian Foundation. And people can contribute money to that Safe Water Fund. And for every $100 that goes into that, we as a for-profit company, we cannot use that money directly, but we can determine who gets the money. So we disperse that money to NGOs who are working with us. And so we'll send an NGO $100 if we get a $100 donation, or it could be $10 donations. When it accumulates to $100, we send $100 to one of these NGOs we're working with, and they turn around and buy one of our purifiers for $50. They keep 50 for their operations to help them go. So they're motivated to help do this. And
right.
We ship the purifiers to wherever they want. And they're, like for instance, Haiti or wherever, Africa, whatever. And they're given away. But we don't like to give them away for nothing, because if you give somebody something, they don't appreciate the value.
Right.
So even in a developing country, you want somebody to pay $2, $5, whatever they can afford, something, so that they've got some skin in the game, so.
No, I agree 100%. And what are you guys looking at, for future? Have you seen, because I know the Albuquerque Journal did they talked about it, saying how your disinfection devices are in demand. What are you looking at as far as, the future? What is it, just like a marketing thing now? You're just trying to get, the devices work, that they held up because of the military grade you have on them. So I mean, it's not that the devices are made, you can easily get them. It seems like,
Yes.
make them. So is it just a matter of just getting them out is where you're at now in your business?
We have the products, and we have other products in development that are nearing, production. We're working on a rooftop tank system that'll disinfect water going into a rooftop storage tank or rainwater collection tank, as an example. We have a variety of other type systems we're getting into production. But the technology works. We've demonstrated it works. Now it's sell it, get the word out, get the message out, we have an unlimited market. With roughly 1 billion people who have access to safe water, we definitely have a big enough market not to worry about the market size. Right. The addressable market is huge. It's just doing the marketing and selling. So we're enhancing our work in that area. We've hired a young college grad who's marketing savvy. And everybody, we want everybody to put their marketing hats on and help us figure out how to get this promoted. So it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And if people want to go on and look at your website, it's Aqua Research LLC.com, and they can go on there and see it. If they want to purchase a device, they could go on there. And you said it's $100 and something for the small device.
$99 on our website, retail. If you're a legitimate NGO and we've vetted you as a legitimate non-government organization, we'll sell them direct to you for half that. Okay, but for the retail market, $99 is, and donations to any amount, we'll accumulate the donations and send them out. Also, we started out with Aqua Research LLC.com, but then found aquaresearch.com was available and I acquired it. So if you didn't want to remember the LLC at the end of it, just remember aquaresearch.com. Either way, it'll get you there.
Yeah, and I want to be respectful of your time, but there's also, you have another something that I don't know if it's your company or there's another company, Aqua Membranes.
Yes, I founded both of those companies, and they're both in the same building here, on Midway Park Place here behind the Central Rio Theater. And Aqua Membranes is a new way to make spiral wound membrane technology, and I'll be brief about it. But we have a CEO, hired him 3 years ago to help get that launched, and that's doing very well. But it's not an incremental change in membrane technology. We're talking desalination, household under-counter RO membrane. It is disruptive to the industry because of the way we make these elements. And so we're pretty excited about that. We're working with some multinational companies, a lot of big companies on DuPont and Dow Film Tech and Hydronautics and Toray and lots of different big companies worldwide. Hinkle out of Germany. So there's a lot of interest in that technology, and we're getting ready for production on that. So anyway, we're kind of excited about that prospects for that too. And it's a huge market for membranes.
No, I love that. It just seems like you have the whole, I mean, here we are in the desert and and you have it seems like you have figured this all out
Right.
with the water. I mean, it's the years and years of, going through and finding this perfect invention. And I want people to go, like I said, it's aquaresearch.com. They can go on here. If you want to purchase a machine, you want to donate, or someone that's in a, in a not-for-profit do people buy them and then take them over if they go somewhere? Like, have you seen people with churches or organizations and they just buy,
they'll take them with them, I mean, we ask them, if you're going overseas with one of these in your hand, don't come back with it in your hand. Give it to somebody, buy another one when you get back if you want one for yourself. But, the need is over there. It's not here. You can open your tap and get EPA drinking water without a problem. Over there, it's a real problem.
Yeah, and then one more quick question: Have you? Because I don't know if I know you've been doing this for years and years. What is the deal with everybody putting hydrogen peroxide in the water?
Well, hydrogen peroxide is it's a disinfectant. It kills bugs, but it does not maintain the chlorine residual value. It's like ozone. It kills instantly. All the bottled water people put ozone in the water, but peroxide is a disinfectant. It kills things, but it doesn't maintain chlorine residual. It does not maintain protection. As an example, briefly, there was a study done at Emory University, who they kind of share space with CDC in Atlanta. But one of their students had done a study in Zambia, in Lusaka, the capital there. And the city had taps around town where they were pumping treated water. And she checked the water at these taps where the community people come and get their water. And it was reasonably clean. But these people are coming and getting their water in 5-gallon jugs. And that water home in those 5-gallon jugs And so she did a follow-up study and followed, several hundred of these people home over a period of time and checked their water quality in their jugs after they'd gotten clean water from the taps. And 75% of those jugs had contaminated water.
Oh, no.
It's not the water that was bad where they were getting it. It's what they were storing it in. And so if they put a dose of our stuff in those 5-gallon jugs when they left the tap, a week later, their water would still be safe at their house.
So it's a residual effect. That's the important part.
It is the chlorine residual. It's the only commonly available chemical you put in water that keeps the water safe. Ozone, peroxide, all these others they happen in a hurry. And UV is the same way. People say, well, I can put UV light, run this water through a UV light. It does the same thing that ozone and all the others do. What the type, those technology does not maintain a chlorine residual in the finished water. Our technology does. It does what all those others do and maintains the chlorine residual. And it's cheaper than all the rest of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know for you that personally, this has to be, to know that most people may save 1 or 2 or 3 lives in their lifehood. But you have the potential to save thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people's life in your livelihood. So I think it's awesome. I appreciate your innovation, and I love your company, and I hope people will get involved and share. I mean, what everybody needs to do is share it and talk about it. And
please. It's why we're talking today. Try to get the word out a little more, and I appreciate it. Yeah, it's the effect things it can do for humanity are certainly highly motivational for me. There's no question about it. So.
Well, thank you, Rodney. I appreciate it. And thank you for being on the ABQ Business Podcast. And I hope all of these ventures and these businesses that you have, it's all with a good heart. And so I hope that you have a ton of abundance and we can together as humanity, look and help those that are less fortunate than us. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast, Rodney.
Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to ABQPodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.